We are here today with Edward G. Johnson, and he is an Army veteran that served in Vietnam in the late 1960s. And Edward, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the military.
I was going to high school in Burbank, California, and I kind of dropped out of school in '67 in April and decided to join the service, and I did that. And I went from April to a boot camp in Fort Ord, California. Went to Fort Knox, Kentucky for recon scout training, a mechanized unit for a military personnel carrier track. And then from there, they waited till September and shipped me out, and then went to Vietnam.
You probably thought at the time when you joined that you might go to Vietnam, right? Because that was kind of...
Had a hunch.
Yeah, there was a lot of people.
Well, I wanted to go to Van Nuys because it was closer to Burbank, be close to my house.
Right.
And they gave me orders Vietnam, and VN is Van Nuys.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, they gave me Vietnam, which was close to Van Nuys, but was further away overseas.
Right, right. But you got a chance to go overseas.
Yeah, I got to go visit.
Right. And you ended up in combat.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that. I know you were injured, and you have the Purple Heart.
Yes.
Which is, something. So tell us just a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, when I got to Vietnam, they gave me the 2nd, 22nd, 3rd Brigade, 25th Infantry Division. I was in Dao Tieng, which I drove military personnel carriers, and 113A1. Had a 50 caliber and 260 machine guns on that track. And this particular day, we got orders to go up by the Cambodian border to be a blocking force for a regiment of Viet Cong coming out of the north, going to hit Saigon for the Tet Offensive. And this particular, if I will get choked up, because I will.
That's okay.
But we drove into this one road with the track, and our whole battalion was set up, and I was on the perimeter in the track. They also had LP, which is a listen post. They would draw straws to get guys to go out to the listen post, which is probably maybe 100 meters from the perimeter. And this particular night, my straw didn't come up. The 3 guys that went out there did. It was a black man, Mexican, and a white dude. And I was on the perimeter still in my 113A1 track, and we got hit with incoming. Right. And this particular night, a friend that I made friends with, Jim King, I was doing the 50, and he says, "I'll take your spot." I said, "Fine, I'm going to grab the ammo cans of 60 and go out the back door because the ramp is up in the track. And if I go out the back door to 60s, I can put them in the 60 calibers that were on the ground. We moved them out. And I figured I could shoot the Viet Cong off of the kneecap if they came in. And this night that they hit us was January 1st, 68, 11:45 p.m. I mean, remember it like it was yesterday, because I suffered a brain injury, PTSD. And this night they hit us with 1,100 Viet Cong. And they shot their rocket. It was an RPG-7 rocket that came in through the driver's hatch, engine compartment, and I was carrying the ammo can out the back door to get to the 60. The rocket blew me out the back door, and Jim King was, as I was getting blown out, I heard Jim King yell, "I've been hit, I've been hit." I looked back. The track was on fire, and Jim King got hit.
Right.
But it blew me back into a tree and knocked me out. So they're saying that a sergeant came up and pulled me up by the shirt collar and took me to the dust-off pad. Dust-off pad, they were waiting for a medevac chopper to come in and pick us up. It was 2.5 hours we were pinned down and told we're going to get overrun by the 1,100 Viet Cong. I didn't want to die in Vietnam. I'm going to stateside and die. Get me run over by an ex-wife bus or something, but not in Vietnam.
Right.
So when I got into, they finally got a chopper and dusted us off, and the first 2 to leave was Jim King and I. We got back to base camp. They kept me in Vietnam, and they kept me there because I only had the head injury. Jim King lost his leg. They shipped him home, and that's pretty much what happened for that night. They would not, United Press International showed up at the hospital, and we wouldn't let me talk about the dead, mostly about the wounded, because I didn't want to give the accurate amount out.
Right.
And
so some of the guys did lose their life in that
oh yeah,
event?
oh yeah, we got hit hard. You know, 1,100 Viet Cong, we had Quad 50 machine guns getting burned out.
Right.
And they burned the Quad 50s out. And so I got back to base camp, and then they shipped quite a few guys home. But like I said, United Press International would not let me talk about the deceased.
Right.
They wanted to hide that.
They wanted to know about the injuries.
Yeah, there was something else that happened. I want to bring up something that happened before that particular time they put me out in the field. Day after Christmas in '67, they had me in minesweep security for a minesweeper. Kid was 18 years old, just got in country, had a wife and a baby at home. And there was 6 of us watching him. And they decided what they wanted to do was, he says, once you guys kick back, because I found this mine, I'm going to probe it with a bayonet.
Right.
So I was the last man back, put a helmet behind my head, and I'm watching. And he turned around and started probing the mine with a bayonet, and kaboom, blew him to pieces. Sergeant came up to me and said, we're going to pick his body parts up. I picked up fingers, scalp, toes, flesh, hair, anything I could find of him, put him in the poncho, and we shipped him back to base camp, and he's one of the 58,479 on the Vietnam Memorial Veterans Wall in Washington, D.C.
Right.
Things like that really hit me.
Is that the way they did mine testing with bayonets?
No, but, well, this is the way he probed it. He probed it because he found the mine, but the thing was that it was command detonated. And when it blew up, just, you know, it was right there.
So it wasn't detonated from the probing it was detonated from somewhere
Command
else.
detonated by Charlie, the Viet Cong.
Right.
Being in Vietnam, I was 19 when I got there, 20 when I got hit.
Right. And your injury wasn't as visible because you got hit in the head.
I got blown out of the track, and I have the brain cell damage in my brain.
Right. Did they know that right away? Did it take a while?
No, that's the way they assumed, but they weren't sure. There was no scars on me.
Right.
There's no blood on my head.
You had a helmet. So
I had a helmet, and I had a camouflage cover, and the camouflage cover took the rip from the blast.
Right. So when did you figure out, or when did they figure out that you had that brain injury?
Stateside.
And how long after was that?
Almost 8 months.
8 months. So
8 months. Well, January 1st I got hit, and by September I was shipped back to the States.
right.
And I went to a drive-in theater with a lady friend, and somebody threw a cherry bomb next to my car, and it was Vietnam all over. And that's when they started they took me to Fort MacArthur Army Hospital.
Right.
Shipped me to Brentwood Wadsworth VA, and they started doing tests, and they found I had brain cell damage,
Right.
which is emotional brain cell.
Right. Right. Did you feel funny between when you were hit in January till that September when you were stateside?
Yeah,
Something
it was kind of like that.
hard to put your finger on it, but type of thing.
Yeah, I put my thumb on it. It's the biggest one. Fingers are too small. Sometimes it hits me hard, sometimes it doesn't. This time it hit me hard.
Right. 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 So when you got back, what about the transition? You know, you talk about stateside, so they send you back to the States.
Yeah,
You're pretty much out at that point, right?
the VA started me on a lot of medication.
They did.
Oh yeah, it was like medication after medication.
And
after
how old are you at this point?
This point? Oh, at that time?
Yeah, at that point.
I can't even remember.
But
22, I
Young.
guess.
Yeah, 22. And you're taking all this medication. And you felt that the medication was also having side effects.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Because I also had that effect of suicide.
You did.
Oh yeah, I was very suicidal.
And what were some of the symptoms of
The
that?
suicidal was because I felt I was guilty for why my friend Jim King got wounded and lost his leg. And I was guilty because I felt like it was my fault for why the other guys got killed that night when we got hit January 1st, '68.
And why did you feel guilty? So, like you felt like there was something you could have done? Or?
Yeah, I felt like I could have done something. And then I find out from other veterans, that's how they were going through. A lot of vets don't talk about it.
Right.
But later in life, they'll commit suicide because they don't talk about it and it hits them later.
Right, right. And yeah. So you found that you were able to talk about it? You had some help?
Yeah, I go to high schools and talk to students in junior classes and express what combat was like for myself. I had 3 other guys on my panel.
Right.
And we expressed what combat was really like for us because recruiters do not express that to the people when they want
Right,
to
of course,
enlist
yeah.
them or what combat's like.
Right.
So
They don't want to scare them off. I mean.
Yeah, they need that money when they recruit.
Yeah, I mean, and they need the people to
Yeah, so
fight.
it was just something that we do now, and I've been doing schools for 18 years.
Right. So you feel that the talking is very therapeutic.
Oh, yeah.
Bottling
It
it up
helps.
is dangerous.
Yeah, I'm on medicine now that helps me sleep at night,
Right.
and it puts me to sleep. You
So
know?
here we are many years later, you still feel the effect of it.
Oh, sure, it's embedded in my brain. That's what I saw at that
Right.
time.
Were you able to transition? Were you able to get work? Were you able to settle down with your family at some point when you came back?
Well, I was just going to VA hospitals left and right.
Right.
And I was able to go to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and kind of do some work down there and make dance floor ceilings for the dance clubs.
Uh-huh.
And
So construction. You were
yeah,
working-
water beds, because I was out then. Missed the water beds; they flooded everything.
Right. That was in the 70s, like
Yeah.
at this point. Right.
I can, it's funny. I can't remember childhood too much, but I sure remember Vietnam.
Right. Right. Yes. Well, it's quite an
You know.
intense experience. So from that point, what about your family? Did you have any issues with?
No, my brother never served in the military. He had a 4F. He was a baseball umpire for Little League and got hit with a line drive, and it pretty well ended his.
Right. So he had a physical
He didn't.
issues.
Yeah, he didn't have to go into service. I
Right.
didn't have a sister. My father never served in the military. He was an aeronautical engineer for World War II.
But in your relationship with them, do you feel it affected your relationship in an adverse way, or not necessarily?
No, they were all backing me up.
They were. They were
support,
very
They
supportive.
support me now.
Right.
Except my parents. Both my parents
Of
have
course.
passed to cancer.
Right.
My sister, she developed some medical issues. My brother does too.
Right. Because we're older now, but at the
Is
time.
that what it is?
Yeah. Well, at the time, they were very supportive. So you had that support
Yeah.
network, which probably helped you during those issues
Yeah.
you were facing. I mean, that.
Well, I'm going to tell you, when the VA decided to make me 50% in the 71, I think it was, as rating,
Right.
they were issuing out a $1,000 check. He think 50% is 500. I
Right.
lived on $149 a month, and I lived with my parents
Right.
because I didn't want to become homeless.
Right. Right. You think you would have been? See, you had that support system.
Yeah.
If your parents weren't there, you might have been homeless.
Probably so.
Yeah.
I would have
Right.
been sleeping in trash cans somewhere.
Did you try to find work, or you just were
No,
unable to?
I tried once in Burbank. When I lived in Burbank, there was a sign company, and we did like pup and taco signs and the Vons. You do the caps over it. I was doing that, but I couldn't go as fast as the people wanted me to. And the boss says, "Won't you apply for your disability through the VA and Social Security?" I said, "Okay," and I did.
Right.
It took a while for the VA to kick in. When they did, I took my income from the VA for rating, and I gave it to my parents because they put me up.
Right. Right. So have you, ever since, have you always had difficulty with work? You've been on
I
this
can't
road?
work at all
Yeah.
because my disability is 100% service-connected unemployability
Right.
through the VA. But there's guys that get 100% that are allowed to work.
Right.
I can't do that. I don't work.
You're not even allowed to work.
No.
Right.
And also, I have tendency. It's hard. I can't do internet. Can't do computers because my brain injury slows me down.
Right.
And when people do a confirmation number, like they'll rip off the numbers like da, 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 da. I'm back on one. I cannot follow that quick.
Right. Your experience is a little different, but we look at the homeless situation, and a lot of veterans end up homeless, or they end up with the
Yeah.
suicidal thing. I mean, what's your observation about that in particular?
I think the government needs to kick in better for the homeless people. Just get some housing set up. Different cities do their things. Cathedral City has one for veterans.
Right.
Desert Hot Springs is very slow. They don't even help homeless with anything.
Right.
And I really feel the government should kick in and maybe build some houses out there, apartments, so that homeless veterans can have a place to stay.
Right.
It kind of goes both ways. There's other people that are civilians that are homeless, but
Right.
just count the veterans in. You get a check, But the problem with landlords is they check to see how your credit is, and if it isn't any good, then it's totally out the
Right.
door.
Right. So it's hard to get rental places, and then
Yeah, it really is, because they deal on what your credit is like.
Right. Right.
And I think that wrong. Just let's honor the veterans more.
When you got back, did you find any support in other people that had been in the military that you had become friends with over the years?
You know what? I don't recall that.
It's
That's
okay.
not in. That was not in my mind at the time. Just going to VA hospitals, they would, they put me on the floor and beat on my back to break me from my PTSD, and they just gave me all kinds of pills, and it was a whole different ball game.
Right. Is that changed, you think, that treatment?
Sure, I think, yeah, there's guys with PTSD that don't have medication, don't have any medical like
Right.
that.
Right.
I know a couple guys in my group that they're not taking medication.
Are you
for
still
that.
taking medication for
Yeah.
it? You are?
I take gabapentin for sleep. That's 100 milligrams. That helps me out a lot.
Right. Helps you get sleep and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Otherwise, I'd probably be awake all night long.
Yeah.
And I don't have nightmares, dreams, bad dreams like Vietnam. I don't have that anymore.
Right. You did for a while.
Oh yeah. If
Right.
I was if I went to a restaurant and somebody dropped a tray on the floor, I'd be under the table.
Right.
Even now, a car back. Well, I'm going to tell you, where I live,
Yep.
they shoot fireworks over my house.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
shoot guns
Right.
behind me in the other street, and
Yes.
I'm thinking, oh my gosh, don't do this.
Yeah.
And they know I'm Purple Heart. I advertise. I have a Purple Heart in my garage door.
Right. But it still kind of pushes your buttons, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah. But you can differentiate, right? I mean, it's fireworks. Right?
Yeah, but in my mind, I'm thinking other things may come about. When they use the guns, that's
Right.
the scary part.
Yeah.
Because when New Year's night hits or New Year's Eve, it's like the Alamo where I live. You call the cops and they go hide under the bridge because they know what goes up's coming down.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had people say to me, it's just fireworks.
Right.
I said, well, what happens if it lands on my roof and catches fire? I'm
Fire.
going to burn up like crispy critter.
So how did you work through? You said you had the problems of suicidal thoughts. One is, if you could describe it a little bit, if it's possible, and then how you worked through it.
I would take my automobile and try to ruin it, wreck it with me in it.
Really?
Oh yeah, because I wanted to kill myself.
Because of the overwhelming feeling of guilt.
Vietnam.
Right.
Vietnam.
Did you feel like hopeless? Things were hopeless at all?
Yeah.
Or- yeah.
I really did. I
Right.
just, I think, it just
Yeah.
get me choked up again.
Right.
It's one of those things,
Yeah.
I just, the VA put me in a lot of therapy.
So did the VA do a good job? Do you feel like they?
Yeah, they
it
helped me out.
Yeah.
They helped me out.
It got you through.
Yeah, but talking to the students helped too. It really helps to talk to students.
So you've done that for a long time.
Yeah, I educate them of what combat was like in Vietnam. It's most talked about war, Iraq, Afghanistan too.
Right.
And I tell you something else. I make magnets to put on cars.
Right.
I got one I just made. It says has a ribbon on top for the Vietnam, and it says Vietnam, and below it says Combat I Serve. And I make these and put them on magnets that I buy at Staples.
Right.
And if I see a veteran, I'll give it to them. If they want to give me money and donate it, I just go buy more magnets.
Right. Right.
I have a friend of mine, he's Afghanistan. The VA just quoted him as stage 3 colon cancer. I said, go to the outside and get it done. He's doing that now. And I just made him 3 of those magnets for Afghanistan.
When you say outside, you mean instead of within
Instead
the
of VA doctors, go to the outside
Why?
community.
You think maybe you get better treatment?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's getting a lot better treatment now because at the time when he was just found out about a year ago,
Right.
they're slow. They're doing things backwards, and now
Right.
they're doing the surgeons out here are doing things good. He's at Eisenhower off and on,
Right. Right. Right.
and he said thank you. I said don't thank me until it's over with.
How's he doing?
He's doing pretty good. He
doing
has the faith.
Right.
He has God in his life. He's a minister.
Yeah. So then, and then with the VA working on you with the suicide, did there come a point where you kind of overcame it, where the suicidal thoughts kind of
Yeah.
went away?
Oh, I'm not like that at all anymore.
Right.
No.
So there was a point.
Well, I was married 3 times. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. Can't count past 3. Did 3 years in the Army. When I first signed up, I thought it was 3 years. They told me I signed up for 8 years. Really?
But because of the injury, you ended up having to
I mean,
leave early.
I did 3 years, and they gave me a medical discharge
Right. Right.
for my brain injury.
Do you have children?
No.
Okay.
I have no children. I got 3 ex-wives running around.
Right.
If you see any,
Right.
pass them by.
Right. But that's not just veterans. A lot of people marry many
That's right.
times.
Well, wait. If
That's
you had
like
an
an
ex-wife,
American-
look at this. Isn't that sad? I belonged to VFW. I belonged, well, sort of the American Legion for a while. And
Right. Right.
I
You
haven't
had
been-
those issues.
Yeah. Purple Heart Life member, DAV Life member. They
Right.
really helped me out.
DAV?
DAV, Disabled American Veterans.
Okay. Right. Right.
And I told people when I was married, I was in that POM, prisoner of marriage for a while.
Person of marriage.
You know.
Okay. So that the disabled American veterans, do they have a facility?
Yeah, they got one in Indio now, I believe it is. They used to have it in Palm Springs, and it folded.
Right.
In fact, they used to meet in a room back here at American Legion. That kind of folded, and then they had a DAV. Let's see, yeah, that was the DAV. I'm also a Purple Heart Life member.
Right.
They don't have that out here. Everything's in San Diego.
Right. Right. So every now and then you'll go to
No.
an event.
I ain't going that far. No, I can't. I have a problem driving distance.
Yeah.
I have a fear of the unknown and distance.
Right.
So to leave to come here, I had to leave at 1 o'clock to go a roundabout way because
To go to-
traffic. Yeah,
right.
to get here.
Right. Well, what about taking a bus?
No.
No.
I see all my homeless guys on the bus. What you talking about?
Right. But your experience with the VA was relatively good, right? I mean, you're saying they're very slow, maybe too much medication, but
No, I think they they treated me different than other veterans.
why?
The other PTSD veterans never got medication,
Right.
but they treated me with that because I guess in the beginning of time, they wanted to treat me because it was different. It was like combat fatigue for World War II. I was a newcomer, and I was a newcomer to them. It was early in the.
But you also had a physical injury. I mean, there's a difference.
Yeah,
It wasn't
I
just
was-
emotional.
Yeah. Besides that, I've messed up my back, sciatic nerve issues.
Right.
I have had, well, even after Vietnam, I got hit by a drunk driver in Palm Desert, totaled my car out, fractured a vertebrae in my neck, and messed my sciatic nerve up in my lower back.
Right.
Again.
Yeah.
But I don't deal with the VA on that part, but for the nerves.
Now, when you say you don't deal with the VA, are you covered if you go outside the VA?
Yeah.
Oh, you
I have Medicare. I use that. I go to the
Right.
Desert Oasis, which is locally, and
Okay, because of age. But before you reached Medicare age, were you able to go to
Yeah.
other places? You are?
oh yeah.
So you have insurance coverage that's beyond the VA. So do veterans have the choice between VA and private medicine?
Yeah, it depends on if you want to keep your Medicare,
Right.
keep it, because a lot of guys turn that down because they're taking what $100 or $200 out of your check to
Yeah.
pay for that Medicare, out of your VA,
That
out of your
extra.
Social Security check.
Right.
But I kept it on there because now the doctors at the VA say you can do the outside. That's fine.
Right.
Because they don't have enough people,
In the
enough
VA.
doctors at the VA. You know,
Right.
I'm trying to get my teeth finished, and it takes them a long time.
Time
It
to
takes a
get to you.
year.
Right. Right. Right.
It's like putting a new motor in a Volkswagen. It takes forever.
Over the years, either at the beginning or now, are there guys you know who have been homeless, either friends or people you've known that are veterans, and or have thought about suicide or committed suicide?
I met a few veterans who are homeless,
Right.
and yeah, they've dealt with alcohol problems, drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and
Right.
drugs.
So it makes them dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Right.
See, there was a lot of, in Vietnam, it was marijuana and opium.
Okay.
I would never deal with anything with that. I don't care for marijuana because guys were getting killed around me that smoked it.
Right.
I had lieutenants smoke it, and I wasn't into that.
And it was spacing them out to a point maybe where they weren't on
yeah,
top
they
of
weren't.
things.
I didn't want to hang around with them and then get killed.
Right.
I made it to here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can still see that my feet are together. Right one's on the right shoe, and the left one's on the left. You
Right.
know?
Right.
Yeah.
So you think so? A lot of the homeless stuff you've witnessed, that they're getting into substance abuse.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
keeping
yeah.
them in that situation. What about suicide? Have you met or do you know of any people that have struggled with that, or?
No, but there's a
succumb to it?
gentleman who does the VFW Post 1534, Jeff Cole. He's the commander.
Right. Oh, I think I've met Jeff.
Yeah, his friend, that he came. I guess he came back from Iraq, Afghanistan, or whatever. He was suicidal. He did commit suicide.
He did.
So Jeff Cole started doing a special program with the VFW and at the high school in Desert Hot Springs to raise money for the wife and the children to help them with, dealing with the pain and the suffering.
Right.
That's he's a good guy.
Yeah. What is the value of telling students about combat? Obviously, they have no idea.
I lived through. I can get through the pain with that. They honor us.
Right.
They write letters. They'll send letters to me.
Right.
They keep the highest school. The one locally, we did 500 students in one day.
Yeah.
And when we're done talking, we talk for an hour and a half.
Right.
And then the teacher will come up, take pictures of us. We're like celebrities for them, but I won't
Right.
sign autographs.
So what do you think the value to the students is? What do you think they're getting out of it?
To know what combat is like, that if they sign, we don't encourage people to sign up.
Right.
We just want to teach them and show them and educate them what we
Make them
went
aware
through,
of what the situation
what combat
really
is really
is.
like. It ain't
Right.
like peanuts.
Right. It's not glamorous. It's
You
right.
can't get Cracker Jack, open up the package, and you get a prize.
Right.
It's not like that. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, that is
Not
good.
like
That's,
that.
that is good. That's a good metaphor. That's important. Like you said, if they go to a recruiter, they're not going to find out that side of it.
No.
They're going to find out the more glamorous side of it.
Yeah. Now, they had, the 13 soldiers that got killed in Iraq. To honor them in Desert Hot Springs, have Veterans Day, Memorial Day.
Right.
And the lady who runs everything, the City Hall, always asks me, what do you want to do with the park?
Right.
The park used to be a memorial park, and the ex-city manager, I was talking to him, and he made the Veterans Park caretaker because I honored veterans in the tiles by having their names engraved.
Right.
And then I said, can we change that park title from Memorial to Veterans Park, because a lot of us are still alive.
Right.
They voted on it,
and they did.
and they did it.
Right. Because the veterans would include both when people have
Both
passed away and
deceased
people who are alive.
living.
Right.
So I honored all of them.
Right.
And like I said, I've enjoyed doing that. That's
Right.
There's so many certificates on the south of my
and imparting that to other people who are unaware helps raise the awareness and of what the true situation is.
Do you know the combat soldiers of any war can talk and familiarize themselves with other combat people, where the people that are not combat don't understand anything?
Right.
Never been through that.
Right. Those type of experiences, people are unaware of it, and unless they find out about it. And then even when you find out about it, you might not be able to fully understand it, but you certainly can get a feel of it. I mean, just from talking to you, I don't have to live through what you lived through to understand what you're saying. Picking up body parts and putting them in a poncho to send home is just
There's no gloves.
horrifying.
It just do it.
Yeah, and you have to do it. It's not like you say, no, I don't want to do that task. You have to do that task. And
Actually, it was an honor for me to do that, even though it was depressing.
Right, because you knew you were doing something important.
Teacher asked me once, I asked the teacher, I said, do I tell the students what I picked up and how I did that? And they said, yeah, that's combat. I told them. Students were like, wow, they had tears in their eyes. They were shocked to hear that.
Right. Do you know of any veterans who've been very successful when they came out? They made a great transition. They were lucky, they were smart, whatever. They didn't have any of those types of issues. And if so, maybe there's something we could notice about that.
Not as much drone in my brain as the ones that are disabled, that are still suffering from things like the homeless.
But what do you
really
think?
am against the government not helping the homeless more.
Right. Homeless, both veteran and non-veteran.
Yeah,
That-
they get a check,
Right.
but it's the landlords that have to check and find out if you have good credit.
It's
So
hard to get a
why?
place. I mean, you can have a check, but that doesn't mean you can get an apartment. Right.
That's wrong.
For sure. But do you think there's a difference? Why do some people come out maybe and don't have some of those issues, aside from disabilities or physical like injuries? That's a whole different ball game. But you take one guy that comes out and doesn't have those injuries and still has a hard time, and some guy who doesn't and doesn't have a hard time. Why would that be?
Because there's guys that come out that bury their combat experiences totally.
Right.
They won't even talk about it.
Right.
Those are the ones that commit suicide. There's 22 veterans that with PTSD that die, I think it's a week.
Right.
22 veterans a week dying of PTSD because of suicide.
And you're saying so they bottle it up, they don't talk
yes,
about
they
it,
don't
and it
talk
eats at
about
them
it.
internally.
Yes, they don't even talk to their kids about it.
So
But
maybe
you know
the
it's
guys
bothering
who
them.
somehow get over it are able to externalize it, not keep it inside, and kind of move
They
past
know how to
it.
deal with
They
it
know how
in
to-
a
yeah.
better way than most of us.
Right,
Right.
right.
I remember one experience at the VA I was with. I was sitting in the day room, and this guy kept pulling this wire to the TV set, and I'm thinking,
What are you doing?
So I got up, and I couldn't even find the wire, and then they called me in. The A's guys called me into a room and said, put this chair up here. I said, okay. We put the bed on the chair. They took the guy in there and put him in that bed with his head down here and his feet up in the air. That was like punishment for him. That's at a VA hospital.
They were punishing him,
Yeah, because he was messed up.
and they didn't know how to deal
Listening.
with it. They didn't know how to deal
That's
with
how they dealt with him, is put his head here. No, I'll probably get in trouble, probably take the bed to Wadsworth. But they put his feet up on the foot of the bed and put the bed up on the chair and put his head down there. That was his punishment.
it. So that he couldn't continue doing what he was doing.
Yeah, because there was no wire there. And I tried looking for the wire. I probably would have ended up in another room.
Right, right.
Not good.
Yeah, yeah. Now that was many years ago. You think it's changed, or?
Oh, sure, I bet. I don't know. I haven't been inside the hospitals anymore.
Right. You don't need the VA that much anymore?
I do for my, yeah, I do. No, there's medical in Palm Desert now.
Right.
There's a clinic there. I'll go to them. I went to one medical
I've
doctor.
heard of that one.
I went to
Yeah.
one medical doctor, and I was supposed to go back, and he quit.
I've heard.
And he quit because of me. I'm a good-looking guy.
No, I've heard that
Is
from
that
other
it?
people. Yeah, he moved on. Something,
Now, the other medical doctor I see now, I said, do you have practice out here? He says, I see 260-something people.
Right.
So I think that'll stay around for a while.
Yes.
They check all my medical stuff.
Right.
I've been blessed, and I don't have cancer anywhere in my body,
Right.
even though I've had a lot of medical things happen to me.
Right.
And not just going to VA. I've had phlebitis, which is blood clots. I've had other things happen to
Right.
me.
Things happen, especially when
No
you're as young as
cancer.
you are.
What'd you say? Young?
Yeah, as young as you are.
Okay, I'll accept that. You're not bad yourself.
Well,
for
we
50.
could figure out your age, because if you were in Vietnam at 67 and you went right from high school, right, we have an idea of where you're.
Yeah, well, I was 19 when I was a senior in high school, and I didn't pass, so I just quit.
See, okay, and you figured
Joined
get
the
to know.
service and realized I'm going to boot camp and then recon training. When I got stateside, I'm going to go back a little bit. When I got stateside from the war, I was at Fort Hood, Texas, and General Bowles of the base pinned the Purple Heart on me. Then I had so much hair in my hat, I thought I was going to get an Article 15, but now I don't
Which
have no
means
hair.
what? What's Article 15?
That's like a ticket. You know, it's illegal. You can't have that. It's a
Oh,
fine.
okay.
Because let me tell you, I'm going to go back to Vietnam again because things
Okay.
come back in my mind.
Yeah.
When I was, after I got wounded and went to base camp, the captain came in and says, "Hey, I want you to drive for me." I said, "Oh, okay." They don't want me in the field.
Right.
I said, "Okay, I'll drive for you."
Yeah.
Took the Jeep to the fuel depot, was getting fuel in the Jeep. We started getting hit with incoming to the fuel depot, and I'm coming back in Jeep speeding.
Right.
Military cop pulled me over and gave me a speeding ticket in Vietnam. And I told the cop, I just got a ticket. Somebody said you should have kept it because it was, proof.
It might have been worth something.
Who knows? Another ticket. And so he says, you do it for rank, and I still need a driver. So I tell you what, he says, I'm going to read your Article 15, and then I'll give you a rank. That way you can't lose it. And it was like maybe $100 fine. You know, we had combat payment there. I think it was $150 combat fee.
Right.
I don't even remember that stuff.
They literally gave people speeding tickets?
They gave me
was
a
that on the
speeding
base?
ticket.
It was on the base?
They gave, yes, it was in the base camp at Dao Tiang, and I
Right.
drove to the fuel depot.
So there was incoming fire.
Yeah, incoming fire. They hit the fuel depot. I had some pictures at home. I should have brought them, but I didn't.
Right.
But they hit the fuel depot, and I'm driving that road back to the headquarters, and I got a speeding ticket by military cops.
Did you tell them what happened?
Yeah, well, they could see the fuel depots on fire. They gave me a speeding ticket. They gave me a speeding ticket in Vietnam.
Right. In Vietnam. Wow.
Somebody told me, one of the guys I talked with said, you should have kept that. That would have been a talkable thing.
Yeah.
I do remember they also had me in charge of quarters at night in Vietnam. See, my mind spaces so I get back on things, and
Right.
that's the PTSD. And I was I was a CQ runner at night, so when we have like incoming, you report the first sergeant or the captain, like you can't hear rockets, give me a break.
Right.
I used to sleep in the mailroom. And this particular day on 4th of July, I wanted to go on R&R to the Philippines. I want to see some hot women. And I was sleeping with my boots on. We got hit with incoming. And I got to the edge of the tent, and I told these guys, get down the bunker. Rocket landed outside the door and blew me down the bunker. Messed my knee up, messed my sciatic nerve and my lower back up. And they found an RPG-7 rocket piece that landed direct hit in the mailroom. Luckily, I wasn't there.
At that moment. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't want to. That was like
Right into the base. These incoming.
Oh yeah.
Right into the base.
There's no.
Wow.
I'm sure they did it in Iraq, Afghanistan. They always hit things. They don't,
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, well, let's go shoot the mess hall. They did
Right.
that too.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And you never know when it might happen. So you're
Never
always on
know.
edge.
When you hear them coming
Right.
and you still hear them pass you by, you're okay. But if you don't hear them anymore, you better watch out.
Right. So Edward, one of the things I got from your description is that it might help people who find themselves veterans, who find themselves with suicidal thoughts, to somehow try to break out of that isolation and talk about it. Because it seems like you're saying talking about it is a tremendous help. It's a tremendous therapeutic type of thing.
That's what they do, a lot of the veterans now.
Right.
VA has a group of has a certain group, and they'll sit in there in therapy and talk about it. When they got a hold of me, it wasn't that way because I was a guinea pig. It was like the beginning of figuring out what to
Right.
do with me.
Right. Right.
Well, we'd have a big group meeting and talk, but mostly it was pop pills in my system.
Right.
A lot of pills, a lot of medication.
Yeah.
And now I can talk about it.
Right.
Sometimes
But the talking about it obviously is a good thing.
Oh yeah.
And it's a hard thing, and you were indicating that you think that is part of the reason the numbers are so high.
Yeah, if combat veterans can talk to other combat veterans, like in
Right.
a group.
Yes, that's
Yes.
because they relate to it. They can
But a
understand
lot of
it.
guys won't do that. Like I said, a lot of guys,
Right.
they like clam up and won't talk about it.
Especially if you feel guilt, it's hard to talk about stuff like that because
Sure.
yeah,
It brings things back,
right. Edward, so I heard a little bit about the Vietnam Wall in Desert Hot Springs. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, well, in 2009, they had the replica of the Vietnam Memorial Wall. It was 256 feet of wall, and at that time it was 58,249 men and women who have died in country, in the war, POWs, and missing in action.
And where is that wall?
That tours the country. It comes from
tour-
White Pines, Michigan.
Okay.
And it was at Forest Lawn in 2009. I thought, it'd be nice if we had it in Desert Hot Springs. So I got a kick. I started talking to my car club, Palm Springs Cruising, and they held the money for me where I got donations, and I raised $10,000 to bring the Vietnam Traveling Mall
Wow.
to Desert Hot Springs, and we put it at the high school baseball diamond, the field.
Right.
It was there 3.5. It was there 3.5 days, and it would be October 13th through October 17th, I believe. and it was 3.5 days. It kind of,
Right.
And we had at the opening ceremony had 300 people.
Yeah.
You don't get 300 people unless you're getting raided
Right.
or busted. And it was just something different to bring the wall there, and
Yeah.
it was wow. And so then in 2017, the wall came back again at Mission Springs Park in Desert Hot Springs, not at the Veterans Park, because the Veterans Park can't hold that.
Right.
And they did it there too, and that was like whatever. Last year I went to city council meeting, and I said at the council, I said I would like to bring the Vietnam traveling wall back again.
Right.
And then the next meeting I went to, I said, but I want you folks to pay for it. Well, they turned around, they covered the tab. It was $7,000 just for the wall.
Right.
Reason why it was $10,000 for me when I did it, because I had to pay for the lumber and stuff for the guys to build the platform.
Right.
They needed things. So what they do, they asked me, they called me a celebrity over there because I know everybody.
Right.
I walked into Vaughn's and I said, I need 50 cases of water. They hooked me up 50 cases of water
Right.
for this year.
So you got donations.
Yeah. Lumber, I went to the hardware store, best hardware in Desert Hot Springs.
Right.
I got the lumber so that I could build the platform to hold this wall up.
Has it taken place yet?
Yeah.
Or
It came May 16th through the 20th.
it just happened in May.
Yeah. And then I needed the construction crayons for tracing. You can trace the names only with the crayons, which is like charcoal.
Okay.
I can't use a pen or a pencil. I had 100 of them, broke
Right.
them in half. So that went by. Now in May 16th, I helped set the wall up. I got the hotel accommodations for the people who brought the wall from White
Right.
Pines, Michigan.
Right.
See, they know I'm going to get this stuff.
Tell us a little bit about the history of the wall. So how did it originate, and what does it travel around the whole country?
Yeah, tours of country. They used to have 3 of those. I had one in Texas.
Right.
And they were selling the one in Texas for like $300,000.
Wow.
To buy it so you could just automatically have it.
Right.
The one they have in White Pines, Michigan, I believe is a quarter, 3, I forgot to say, but it's 256 feet of wall, so there's north and south, east and west.
Right.
There's 58,479 men and women on that wall.
Listed.
And so when they brought it, this time when they brought it, they drove from White Pines, Michigan, right to Desert Hot Springs.
Okay.
But it was a little windy and a little cool.
Right.
And on the second day, I have a POWMIA table I had custom made. So when I brought it in 2011, I put it at the high school. I had my friend,
At that baseball field.
yeah, he built
Yeah.
he built the table, and I had the glass donated. Well, I wanted to get that back, so I set it up on the grass this time. But the grass is wet, and the moisture fogged up the glass. So I thought,
Right.
so Thursday night, that night, I went home and got my rubber pad, put it underneath.
Put it underneath.
Redid it at 4:20 the next morning, Friday morning. It was freezing. I'm wearing a jacket, and the local news station's filming me like, "You're wearing a jacket in the desert?"
Right.
It was
what time
cold.
of year was
it
it?
was windy.
What time of year? What time of year was that?
That was May 16th through the 20th.
And it was cold? Wow.
Oh yeah, it was cold. It was windy.
Right.
But we had American Legion bikers, riders.
Right.
They guarded the wall at night.
Right. Okay.
Jeff Cole and the other guys guarded the wall at night. So I thought that was much of an honor. We didn't have much, because I tell you what, when I did it in 2011, the Vietnam vets guarded the wall.
Right. Right.
2017, the girl who ran that closed the wall up at 6 o'clock at night. You can't do it. It's a memorial. It's 24 hours a day.
Right. So it travels around the U.S. to any group that's able to
Yeah, if you're able to pay for it.
pay for it. Right.
And it's gone up in price. I have a dually truck and have a trailer with like closets,
Right.
things. And they slide the panels in like the I can't even think, the panels in the thing.
Right.
And they slide the panels out and they put it up.
The local venues arrange the ceremonies according to
Yeah,
how
the
they want.
city council did an opening ceremony.
Right.
We had a minister. I had a minister from Afghanistan.
Right.
He's the one who has cancer now.
That's,
He did the prayer for us that time.
Right.
I did the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Always had me doing something.
Right.
The mayor was there. It was quite a ceremony
Yeah.
for the opening
Yeah, yeah.
ceremony. It was very much an honor. And we had one girl that I've had sing, when they have a Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and does hospitals,
Right.
City Hall always asked me, what would you like to do for Memorial Day?
Yeah.
There's a girl named Zanisha Clary, she's a singer,
Right.
only 29 years old. And I had her sing, the first one we did was Memorial Day last year. She
Right.
sang Amazing Grace, everybody cried at that.
Yeah.
And then Veterans Day, we did some more. She always sings the national anthem.
National
She
anthem,
sang
sure.
it this time too. So
Wow.
it's always an honor to do things like that.
Well, I'm glad you have been able to accomplish that. That's
Yeah, now I
quite a-
can drink my gin.
Thank you, Edward. I appreciate your
thank you, sir.
coming here and to discussing this
That's
stuff with us.
fine.
so
You
much.
got hair. I don't know how this feels. I don't know what that feels like anymore.